Hey everybody, Stu Smith and Jeff Nichols here with another Tactical Fitness Report, and we are going to pay some homage to the firefighter today. Especially the California firefighters and all those crews that came from other states to help them with their, last 45, 60 days of fire.
Yeah, the most recent, the
It
ones that
was
were up north, and also
yeah.
the ones down south.
And a pretty common question is, what do you do after you've been fighting fires or you've been out in the field? We can even compare it to being out in the field for, your
Right.
Army guy being out in the field for a month. What do you do
Yeah, it
when you
kind of sounds like
yeah.
that very first push in 2002, 2003 into Iraq, where the SEAL teams and the Rangers they all pushed into there with very little equipment, right? And they're being sustained out of Humvees and airdrops with just MREs and water and trying to scrounge like that. That sounds and it's very hot. It sounds very familiar. So I sorry to interrupt. It's like
No.
Let's say firefighter post. We're going to bracket this in, folks. Let's just say, so we can create some context and some bandwidth. In it's a 30-day fire. It's intense. It's crazy. Okay, post Hell Week, post deployment, post whatever it may be. It's like, okay, what in a perfect world, right? What would we hope that this firefighter could do for, the next couple weeks post that real intense, real traumatic, and likely probably change his physiology a little bit, especially his body weight, men and women. Yeah. So it's like, we're going to talk about, in a perfect world, how can you recover from these extreme bouts? But in this, Hell Week, whatever, but we're going to talk about fire.
Yeah.
It's so recent.
I think a good way to determine if this is you is I would do this. Listen to us. If you could do this, if you were fighting fires for last month, 45 days, and you could fall asleep on the ground with a hat over your face in the middle of the daylight, with just a bunch of bushes around you, you sleep anywhere. If that was you in the last 30, 45 days, you need to listen to this.
This pertains to you.
Yes.
You can sleep leaning against the wall while you're standing.
Yes.
Right? Or if you are sleeping in a position that you are shivering from exhaustion. Okay, so you'll know what I'm talking about. That's how I know you guys know what I'm talking about, men and women. So if you are in a state where you're like, right now, if I close my eyes and I took a big deep breath and exhaled, and I was in a place that could support my body weight, not even just my head, my body weight, I could probably fall asleep. Yeah. This pertains to you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Or you're having to stay awake and force yourself awake with loads of caffeine.
Yeah.
So time to take a break. So let's start off. What's your first step, Jeff? What's your first step for this guy getting back home?
Yeah, let's
first 12 hours.
Yeah, let's go. So big view. Let's start big view, right? The three things that I think are most important: sleep, food, right? Sleep. Well, I say sleep, food, and a little bit of movement. That's what I'm saying. We are not. Let's be super clear. I'm not talking training.
Yep.
I'm talking. Number one priority is it's going to be one of two things. If you have a choice, eat before you eat something before you go to sleep, because you end up sleeping for a long time in a fasted state. So it's like one of a couple things may happen. You'll eat, fall asleep, and just keep waking up and having to be hungry, and that's fine. Whatever happens. But those are your top two. You're going to go, okay, maybe you ate 6 hours, whatever. But I suggest eat first, right?
Good meal.
Yeah. So or get clean.
Yeah.
Get clean, get fed, sleep. Because then that sets everything up because we're talking about being in a clean, comfortable state. Because it's like, for me, this is my mental state. I'm going to go, well, I've already been up for 2.5 days. Like even after Hell Week, right? It's like, I still was like, I'm going to shower.
Oh yeah.
Like I want to shower and I want to put dry, clean clothes on.
Yes.
Don't, you will regret, and probably from the standpoint of your physical body of healing, if you fall asleep, and we've done it, wet and sweaty 3 hours later, like, oh God, that was a bad idea. I should have just taken the stuff off, And if you're in your own home, man, rinse off, just have a big fluffy blanket, just throw it over you and jump on your bed. Don't care.
Yeah.
But get clean, get to bed, get fed. That's my first 24 hours.
Yes, absolutely. And that sleep, give yourself a good night's sleep. Try not to be disturbed. If you even fall asleep during the daytime, try to blacken out everything. You're probably going to lose sense of time, when you do this, because it's just one of those things that, if you go to bed at 4:00 at night, you might wake up at 4:00 in the morning, 4:00 in the afternoon, you may wake up 4:00 in the morning, 12 hours later, because you're that tired. Some people, I tell you what, I didn't sleep that much immediately after Hell Week. I think I was just in pain. Every time I rolled over, I woke up, so sometimes
were you a back sleeper? Were you a back sleeper then though? In Buds, because I was, and I think that's why I was able to sleep so quickly and so easily at Buds, is I was a back sleeper in college. Because my baseball coach would do room checks, and he's like, "Sleep on your back, Nichols." I'm like, "Oh, my back."
Okay.
Kind of thing. And I'm glad that he did. So it set me up for that.
I definitely took naps on my back, when I was in college.
Yeah. So I just kind of like just thinking about it, because I was like, okay, well, in context to sleep into this first 24 hours is it doesn't really have to be rigid, but I bet you for the firefighters that are listening, this is what I was going to suggest for the folks, but I bet firefighters probably already do this, is I would have, like, because of these, at some point in the season, you're going to have these long bouts, like deployments, whatever it is. I would always have like a little travel bag packed, just like things that you like in those, like, hey, make sure I have a nice clean towel, my own toiletries, like a good, like, pair of shorts, underwear, socks, something where it's like, oh, I'm going to be on the road for a week, 2 weeks, whatever it is. It's like, as soon as I'm back on the road, it's already in my bag, already in my, I might be on the road, I have to shower. Because it's like, let's see say a crew comes in from Colorado.
Well, they're probably at a hotel.
Right?
They're
so it's
like, at a hotel right now.
Now, again, and I know they're packing and stuff like that, but this isn't so much for the firefighters. It's like, for you athletes that, you guys are prepping and do all these sort of things, it's always like, I always like to come home to a clean house. So it's the same idea of like, I'll prep these bags, I'll prep these things ahead of time. So I know when I get home, it's like, oh, house is clean, laundry's folded. Oh, I'm swimming in the morning and I already packed my bag for the next day. I do that for me because it saves a lot of time.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll buy that. Something too, I mean, they're, they may get off their shift and they're at a hotel, if they're lucky, right? Or maybe prior to departing the area where they were fighting fires, they're at a hotel, if there is a hotel for them. Sometimes it's not, they're just sleeping where they can sleep.
Right.
So, I mean, those are issues, you can deal with. If you have access to a hotel, you probably have access to a pool. I personally, one of the first things I would do after, working, 18, 20-hour days, sometimes 24, depending on what's going on, you probably did some all-nighters, is I would just get in a pool and just soak and do all my, aqua jogging, tread water for a little bit, maybe do a couple laps, nothing crazy, probably won't even get my heart rate raised up that high, and just stay and just try to loosen up all my joints, and then go take your good warm shower and all that. And, if you have this type of stuff available to you, I found that to be very helpful as far as transitioning from kind of that work mode to, slowly starting to get ready for training mode. It may take a couple of days before you actually start training again. In fact, why don't we take it to that level? When do they go? What's their first weight room or gym activity or physical activity?
Let's back up just a quick jump just to go this. Like, okay, so like, all right, we've taken care of those first couple of days, and all you've done is sleep, right? Kind of thing. So I just want to talk about, okay, what should you be eating? Just from a non-clinician standpoint, the recommendation that I've received for things like this through registered dietitians, sports dietitians, is that you want to eat fermented foods, right? You want to eat things that will contribute directly to fighting inflammation, and that's gut health. So you want to avoid sugars. You want to avoid refined flours and wheats. Or you want to avoid all those. You want to avoid as many processed foods as possible. You want to be able to introduce foods like the sauerkraut, the kimchi, pineapple, those things that are very, very high in fiber, right? The sugar is fine with the fruit as it's introduced because of its natural fibrous and enzymes. Okay, so I'm not saying overeat for anything. So just simple. This is this, and this is the same advice I give to everyone that gets through Hell Week, and they say, "Hey, made it through Hell Week. What should I be doing now?" I go, "Okay, plain yogurt, right? Not sweetened yogurt, not added sugar yogurt, natural yogurt. Okay, kimchi, sauerkraut, high fat, avocados, nuts, red meats, fish, high fat, high protein." Potatoes, starches like that, rices are fine. Vegetables, as many as you want. But if it isn't getting grown from the ground or isn't walking on the ground and eats what's grown from the ground, don't eat it. All right, at least for a while. I'm not saying, just give yourself some restraint and cut out all the poo for a couple days at a time. Snack, that's fine, but that's your best weapon to get back up to where Stu's saying as quickly as possible. Control inflammation. That's going to improve your sleep. That's going to improve everything. That's going to be the snowball too. So I'm going to ask you now, Stu.
No,
where do you go now? Where's the training start?
That's really good because you're really talking about gut health there. Because what have you probably been eating for the last month?
Yeah, snacking
food, MREs. You've probably just been eating MREs.
You've got to clean the system out, and so that's why I was saying, as you're reintroducing and repopulating the good healthy gut biome, you will go, oh, I'm ready to train, or I'm not. That sluggish, that mental clarity, all that stuff, and the grind. I will say that is probably a good definition of the grind of the firefighters doing.
Yeah.
Right? And just what Stu is saying, then you introduce, the gut health stuff and all it in the sleep, and then once it starts getting reordered, you go, oh, okay, it's now I think it's probably time to start training, but that's the focus right there. And that might take a couple days. And depending on the intensity of what you had to do or your unit had to do and the other stressors and so on and so forth, it might take a couple weeks for real. Yeah. But that's the beauty is like after a long season, get yourself healthy and then you can work hard again.
Yeah, I like that. I would probably, with my first time going back to the gym, I would be honest with you, I'd just make it a mobility day.
Yep.
What I call mobility day is, 5 minutes on some form of non-impact cardio activity, not high intensity, just nice and steady. I prefer the elliptical because it kind of gets me moving, or swimming. Either one, I prefer swimming or elliptical. Kind of gets all my joints moving. And then for 5 minutes, and then for 5 minutes after that, I do stretching or foam rolling, or car buffering if I'm not at the pool. Yep. And I do that 5 times. So that's an hour's worth of workout right there that is non-intense. It is it works on all your joints, gets your muscles moving. It's low, like I said, low intensity. That is just a good way to kind of wake up the body again and start building that habit of training again, because you've gotten good at skipping workouts. Think about that.
Yep. Yeah.
You just left 30 or 45 days of skipping workouts. So now you got to rebuild that habit again. And sometimes, instead of skipping a day, a good way to just kind of help yourself reinforce that habit is go to the gym, do something easy at the same time that you always will, and just start building that habit again. And then, the next day might feel a little better. Maybe throw in some calisthenics. Next day might feel a little better.
Yep.
To start lifting again. So.
Yeah, I call it training by braille. I do it by feeling. So it's like I'll do the same thing. I'll go into the gym with very little plan, but I'll go in there and I'll look at machines. You should, like, I don't think that this is unique to me, but you can kind of think, as you're moving around, you're kind of like, man, that's kind of tight, that's sore. And I'm like, okay, instead of me trying to like stretch it, I'm like, what machine is going to give me a good stretch? And I'll do some reps, do some stretch, and I'll go to the next one and go, man, my hamstrings are tight. I go, hamstring machine, boom, get it activated. I'm like, oh man, my triceps are tight. So I'll get them all stretched out. I'll work around the gym. I'll just pop around for an hour and I'll get done. I go, man, I just felt great. Worked up a little bit of sweat. That's what I call training by Braille.
Yeah.
Just do it by feeling. And pretty soon you'll just be like, man, I feel like moving. And then you're like, oh, I'm going to stick with back today. Bam. Or whatever it is. Things are starting to come back together. And so, and the thing is if you could go in there 3 or 4 or 5 different times in a row, days in a row, just training by Braille, because now you've just exactly what Stu is doing. And that's when people go like, why do you and Stu promote different stuff? It's like, no, we don't. He's saying mobility. He's saying stretch. He's saying this. I'm saying the same thing. I just am saying lift by Braille, use stretching and weights and gravity and stuff.
Sure, absolutely.
Stu and I are getting to the same place.
Yeah.
We're just coming from different areas.
You know, if there's a third person in this conversation, they may say the term yoga. You know, go do a yoga 100%. Class. 100%. You know, there's so many different ways. And like I said,
or whatever it is. Yeah.
I have never said once, I have the way to train.
Yeah.
You know,
I may have.
I have a way to train.
Yeah. In the past, I may have been an ass and have said that probably, but I don't anymore. So, but
you know, there are many ways to get there. You know,
there certainly is.
Whether you're trying to just get back into it again, or you are preparing for some spec ops selection, there are many ways to get there. And it really, once again, Jeff and I say it all the time. We bought the T-shirts that says "It depends."
Yeah.
Really, it depends on you. And like Jeff said, you know, going in there feeling by Braille. You know, there may be 3 other guys in there with you doing the same thing, but they're going to be doing something different because their lower back hurts. Maybe your shoulder hurts. You know, if you're standing up 18, 20 hours a day, I guarantee you 30 days later, you're going to have some lower back issues.
Yeah.
You know?
And so that's a perfect segue. So here's my thing is like, all right, folks, so then you're back training and you got a lot of soreness, residual pain, and from what you just endured.
Yes.
And so the question is like, where do I start? And I go, my answer is you start there. And that's why you start with these mobility and training by Braille, is because if you let your body resituate, because you may have been working uphill or on a slant for days at a time.
Yeah.
And you're so in the zone because it's like, it's serious, it's traumatic, it's violent, it's dangerous. And you know it's coming. The body isn't surprised by the work. It's fucking living. It's working.
Yeah.
The 30 days goes by and you're like, holy crap. I've been leaning to the left for 33 days with a shovel in my left hand. Why does my right side of my neck hurt? And you're like this. Over 30 days, it just went slowly up.
Yeah.
They didn't notice it, you know, because I've been working like this, head down.
Yeah, that's good.
Whatever.
Point.
So it's like, okay, guys, get in the gym. That's why there's mirrors, you know, wrap into a lat pull down machine, wear a tight shirt, get under load and go, wow, I'm way out of balance. Right? And then flex and stretch and get back to center. That's why machines are so good, because they are bilateral, unilateral, and you can get yourself into position and use them as stretching apparatuses.
Yes.
Right? That's all weightlifting is. It's stretching under additional load, velocity, and volumes.
You know, you just brought up a very good point about the use of machines. I typically don't use machines unless it's for that reason.
Yeah.
Or it's for, once again, kind of beginning back into it, you know, recovering from an injury.
Yes.
Because of that, right?
Yep.
And it allows you to do that. So maybe if I get back into the gym shortly after that, instead of going free weights, I go with the machine weights, because there's a lot less. Because think about what's wrong with your central nervous system right now. I mean, you are probably
it doesn't even know what's up or down, probably.
Right. You are probably going to have a real hard time balancing. You're probably going to have a hard time with grip.
You're going to have a temper.
Oh, yeah, he may just be grumpy. I mean, there's all these little things that have occurred by staying awake for so long and just being overworked and overtired that, you know, the machines can actually help you, you know, prevent injury from a weird movement. Say you can't even balance a bench press, you know, or you can't hold on to a deadlift, or you can't even reach your shoulders back to hold on to a bar for squats. You know, there may be other activities that can still allow you to do those movements, but without the risk of injury. So we're kind of mitigating risk using.
You said something perfect, Stu, and that's here. You perfectly highlighted really what I meant by going by Braille. It's like, okay, firefighter A has been fighting for 30 days. Firefighter A, he, a 26-year-old male, has always moved pretty well. 30, but this is his first real like 30-day, just kicked him in the ass. He gets back in the weight room. And he's like, man, I've never had a problem getting under the bar. My shoulders are killing me.
Yeah.
Well, before you try to move, like, okay, you might just spend a day just bracing and flexing and stretching and just trying to hold that position. It's like learning the front rack over. It's like, holy crap. And so that's what I say, or that's what I mean by, thank you, Stu, for making sense of it, is that's what I mean by move the movement pattern, get yourself in the starting blocks before you move. So sometimes you're like, well, no, I'm under the bar. Yeah, but are you in the position you're normally in? Is that a good position to like start your movement in? It's like, no, I'm out of position. I didn't realize it. I'm in a shrug when I should be shoulder blades down or something. So exercises in themselves, the starting point is the first point of assessment. If you're like, man, I can't even get in position.
Yeah.
Ding, light bulb.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah. So, I would say I would continue this type of activity of coming in and guessing, coming in and playing around, maybe trying a machine only circuit.
Yep. So let's go this. Let's go. Hey, like the person's ready. Like, hey, appetite's back, libido's back, sleeping pattern is really starting to reform itself. Aches and pains are really beginning to subside. Work, it's starting to phase back into a normal work schedule, whatever that may be. Just trying to paint a picture, Stu.
Yep, I like it.
What training then are you like, hey, you're the exercise physiologist, strength coach at the fire station or the department. Your guys or girls, men and women are coming back, and you're going, all right, guys, here's where we're going to start a sense of a formal programming. There's many places we can start. We know that. There's a few. Where is it you're thinking, hey, here might be a good place to go?
Whew, that is a deep question. Well, first of all, like
general,
I said,
I just want three. Like I'm saying, okay, so are we thinking we want instantly jumping intense, high volume intensity? Do we want to ease in the water? Do we want to, could we add a couple things? We get back to running, a little bit of jogging, a little bit of I'm saying a couple different things we go, yes, we definitely could do these. These ones, not just yet. Hey, let's not jump right into high intensity interval training. Let's not do that. Okay. So that's my position. Like, no, what I'm not saying is that high intensity interval training is a bad thing for firefighters to do after. No. I'm saying the first thing after a very extreme intense bout, we don't want to try to find a PR.
Yeah.
That's my point. We don't want something extremely heavy, extremely fast, let's save that for a couple weeks still.
Absolutely. Let's think about this.
Go ahead. Where might you start?
Well, first of all, I want to kind of, if there is such a thing, I don't know what the science is behind this, but if you spend a month of not working out, right? When you come back into working out, you're not going to have the same 1 rep maxes that you used to have. You're not going to have the same mile time.
You shouldn't.
That you used to have.
You're being honest.
You'd be a freak of nature if you do. So the thing that I would truly avoid is trying to think about jumping back to where you left off.
Yes.
So pull back a notch. If you like to lift, let's start getting into lifting. But, instead of going super heavy, let's keep it all under body weight. Maybe spend a good amount of time warming up with calisthenics, maybe a few machines, and then start ramping up. Maybe I wouldn't even go over your body weight lifts for probably a week
don't overtask the tissue. Right. Yeah. Exactly. That's what what my nerd brain is here and it wants to say is we want tissue sparing exercises. And what does that mean? It means you can put good work in. That's the thing is like the human body, especially the human bodies that are regularly in those states in a really narcissistic way, kind of want that trauma again. So yeah, let's get back to sweating a little bit, not huffing and puffing. Let's get back to sweating. Let's chase a pump a little bit. Yeah.
Yep.
Right. But let's not strain because it's heavy. Let's work because you're getting that burn. Like seriously, like this is here's the deal, folks. Here it is. Post-traumatic experiences, working through some of these vanity exercises, these vanity lifts, these pumps, these total body days where you're just trying to get everything pumped up. this is a great time. Like this is one of those things that a couple days after a UFC fight, I would say, hey, X fighter, you might want to do this, or you got a defensive back that, sustained normal trauma on an NFL field. Like we might want to prime the nervous system a little bit if he's a speed guy, but I definitely want to engorge him with blood, by getting in that pump, or her, whatever. So think about that, folks, a little bit.
So you would say do more isolation exercises versus
just like think of like a push press, right?
Yeah.
Like a med ball push press, like a squat thruster push press, boom, right? Big movements, right? Yeah, then we can go to banded curls or something like in presses, like where there's constant resistance and the body has to really work, but it's not heavy.
Right.
So a lot of like TRX is like with suspension trainers, bands.
Perfect.
Yeah, calisthenics, perfect. But we don't want to go into like, hey, let's find my new 5RM or 1RM and a flat bench. Like, yeah, work dumbbells and stuff. But machines, that's where it's like the Cybex and hammer strength machines are so fantastic post, I think, because a lot of them put you in a good arc position. They're stable. Yeah.
And then get you back to that proper range of motion and everything. So how about this? I've always wondered about this, and I need to find it if there is an answer to this. But the theory behind you take 2 weeks and you've completely been sick, you've been working, you haven't worked out at all for 2 weeks, right? There's a little bit of a deloading phase that occurs there, right? Yeah. What is typically, and I know this isn't for everybody, this is very generally speaking, what is typically that rebuild before you're back to where you were?
Yeah.
Is it a 1-to-1 ratio type thing?
It depends on training age. It depends on duration of illness too. Like, there's no like, if this, then that, if this, then that.
Yeah.
A rule of thumb for me that I typically go is for every day you've missed training, you take 2 tissue wasting days of training addition on the back end. So if you're sick for 5 days, I have 10 days of moderate work before I even consider an 11th day to go. Let's see what the system's got. I personally go off of a 2-to-1. Now, if it's a child, I might go 3-to-1.
Okay.
If it's like, man, we can't risk this because we got the world champions coming up in 4 months, I would extend it, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I would rarely keep it short. It'd be one of those things like we're better off just eating and sleeping and hydrating rather than trying to push any training and then seeing what the organism can handle. We stress it out this one time for a competition. That's where my head's at.
Right. Well, I would agree with that. Because figure, like I said, if you've been out for a month, like I said, we've missed a month's worth of this training. We've already kind of built into, almost 3 weeks before we're even getting back into moderate lifting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so it's like for every 1 day off, you take 2 days of training back to get back to where you may have left off, I guess.
Right. I would say that. So now, exactly. So now you've kind of built up to that level of 3 to 4 weeks post, return. Yep. And you're starting to get back into the swing of things, but still you're probably not going to be back where you left off for another 3 to 4 weeks.
Yep. So, unless like the thing is that you're going to see that recovery shorten, not by getting back sooner, but by when you are certain you're sick, that you, number one, stop training. Number two, you're like, man, I don't feel good. This isn't like I've eaten fine. I slept because I know when I'm going to get sick. So my hair follicles get really sensitive. I get it through my face and eyes. I can feel it. When I'm actually get a bacteria virus, I can feel it a day out. And I just shut everything down. I just immediately treat myself like I'm sick. Yeah. And so that's the difference too, is like stop training when you feel like you're getting sick. Because worst case, you just take a half day off and go, oh, okay, no, I'm good. And the next day becomes an amazing training day.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's better be cautious because you're going to get a great training day after the fact otherwise.
Good point.
Worst case scenario, right?
Yeah.
So just do that. And you'll find that because you've cared for yourself even mentally sooner, you'll heal much faster because you're on it. You're like, I don't want to miss training days. Change your mindset. Like, I got to keep training because I don't want to miss training days. I'm going to say, no. Take care of yourself early so you don't. That's it.
I like that. I like that. That's a really good way to look at it. So, I guess kind of you have anything to end on this
No, I think,
as far as like we've taken it from like just basic recovery. I mean,
yeah,
caveman recovery. I mean, you're just licking your wounds and trying to get to feeling normal again. And a lot of that, as Jeff said, starts with gut health and sleep. So that means eating and sleeping, and then slowly start getting into mobility and stretching and getting your body primed to be able to train again, and then take a nice steady progression. Might be 3 to 4 weeks before you're back to where you left off, but give yourself some time. The last thing you want to do is come back on day 2 of your return after a good night's sleep even, and just try to do where your workout left off.
yep.
Probably the last thing you would ever want to do, especially if it's high mileage or high intensity or high, heavy weights. All of those things will not be beneficial for your return.
Here's something that I don't know if it's in practice. Honestly, I don't know that if it can be put in practice on a wide scale in the fire department. I know this is practice wide scale in the NFL. So what I'm thinking is like, what have I learned with extreme heat training and how to properly or try to manage it? And what the NFL does is like what I had learned from a team that's in the South, that plays in extreme heat in their practice, even outdoor. They weigh them before they go on the practice field. They weigh them when they get back. And so it's like priority number 1 is rehydration. Now, in the foot, like, are we weighing them? No. Maybe a firefighter may not be able to weigh himself every 3 or 4 hours. That's not what I'm asking. But from a standpoint of, and I know these men and women are working 24 hours at a time, but understanding where your body weight may be relative to, and like, is it too much to ask how to scale out there sometimes? And it's not that like, well, you can't go fight a fire, but it is one of those reminders. It's like, shit, man, I got to drink a bunch of this water. And I know I'm not going to keep up with my body weight loss, but having that scale there, seriously, put up a table, put a bunch of fucking water bottles up and put some scales there. Just go, hey man, you got to drink 3 or 4 pounds, go.
Yeah.
Congrats, go. Like, don't like make it something where people like, man, this is, and it will help. And I think it's that little sort of effort and culture change and sort of in your face obviousness. It's not threatening. It's not offensive. It's not anything but just care.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really big one too. Like you said, I went and trained with the Mississippi State Fire Academy a while back, and they put me in
the down there at all.
They put me in the gear, and I went into the fire, burn house, and sweat my ass off. And sure enough, they had a scale right there.
Yeah.
And so I put on all my gear. I weighed myself. I was about 60 pounds heavier because of all this gear. And then I go back, and then I come back, and I actually lost 8 pounds, which is a gallon of water, in about 25 minutes. I mean, I am not, and they didn't. It was so funny because they're so, adapted to this heat. I was not, I was not used to 1,000-degree, heat, in the gear stuff. But anyway.
And forgive me, because I would not be surprised at all if the medical staff that are overseeing CAL FIRE, for example, are going, dude, like this is old news.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, I am not saying that California, because that's the whole point of this, is because I've been out California like 3.5 of the last 5 weeks, and that was in the mix of the fire. And I was like, that is an impressive logistic manpower that I'm in awe of what CAL FIRE has done. So
absolutely.
And so that's where this comes from. I'm looking at it going, a lot of people probably could learn from CAL FIRE that are dealing with, it's not like CAL FIRE is teaching people how to do this, but there's little things that they probably do that's like, man, if the military knew, that would really help. Because it's like when we found out the smoke jumpers were the ones that set up airborne school, or is it vice versa? How's it one learn from the other? But there's that close-knit genealogy of smoke jumpers and the birth of airborne in the military.
Yeah.
So there has to be some sharing information. I think that's maybe it's just us opening a dialogue going, oh, no, we already do this. As a matter of fact, we do this, 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 and this, and it's standardized. I wouldn't be surprised if California is like, dude, This has been standardized since the 80s.
Exactly. Everything we just said, we do this all the time.
Just shut up, guys. I'll be quiet.
No, but like I said, this is for, you can take people's hardest day and learn from it, whether or not you're a firefighter or not. Right. Yeah, and because our bodies are all the same is how we recover and how we adapt and how we get used to these type of programming. But, you have to be smart and listen to your body. And, there is a system that allows you to fully recover. And that system is really time, and you have to be patient. Once again, patience and it depends comes into our conversation
a lot. All right. I think that's, again, it's, this wasn't meant to be super complex. This was really just to give you guys some food for thought and preparation and managing and just some thought-provoking stuff that I think is useful for everyone. Like Stu just said, this is just using the firefighter context for me, that heroic being and actuation of that being is really great for us to focus on, because it's such a great example of how human resiliency is manifested. It's just now we're trying to really learn and teach how to make sure that's repeatable, because we're depending on these men and women to do things that they do it so well, we take it for granted.
Yeah. So anyway, folks, if you're interested in seeing more of Jeff, he has a website, performancefirstus.com. My website, stewsmithfitness.com. We both now have membership programs too. And by the way, if you're watching this video, this is a membership only video.
Yeah, I'll be adding these when mine's up sometime in February.
Yeah, I'm not posting these on. You won't find them on iTunes. You won't find them on YouTube. They are within closed groups of this. So this is what you get whenever you sign up
to either one of our platforms.
There you go.
One or both. And that's the beauty. Is like we're gonna share. Like there's enough of you all, and you see that Stu and I are genuinely friends and care about one another. And what he's got going on, I support, and vice versa. So we're better as a unit than we'll ever be by ourselves.
Oh, absolutely. It's a big fitness world out there. And be honest with you, Jeff, I'm getting a lot of old people on my membership program, which I love, because I think it's because
both of us are going that route. Like, so it's happening. Like I was certain that my demographic was like teenage. 25 to 42 is by far, which is great, because it feels like that's the population that's going to be teaching really right now anyway.
Yeah.
So it's awesome. Not that I'm not getting younger guys, men and women too, but it's awesome. I appreciate it, Stu.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We'll see you later. Thank you guys.